Hello everyone, my name's Dean. Let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates, well, almost daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the price of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is January 21st, 2025. There haven't been that many earth-shattering changes in our trading thesis, or in the charts rather, affecting our trading thesis since we last spoke. But nonetheless, I think today may be interesting enough to actually warrant an update. And I'm going to tell you why that is. I'm going to tell you why, although I do expect some more upside from Bitcoin, right? At least on the smaller time frames, it still looks really bearish to me on the high time frame. And the most exciting thing that very few people are talking about, not everybody, not nobody, I'm not going to say that. Nobody else is talking about this, people say that. But very few people are talking about is what I've been saying, that before Bitcoin dumps, if it actually does dump the way we say it's going to dump, you can expect a massive move in some altcoins before that. It is absolutely necessary, and we can see that in two distinct places. I'm going to talk all about that. So if all that interests you, then watch until the very end. Hope everyone's having a great day. Let's get into it. All right, Bitcoin. I always like to start my analysis out on the high time frame. All right, look and see what the context of the analysis is. What are we talking about? Higher time frame. What's this look like? Why are we zooming into this or that? So many times people tell you, oh, we just hit all-time high. Why are you not bullish? That is insignificant. Unless you're hitting an all-time high and the context of that is you're completely obliterating the previous one, and structurally you're making changes. Again, it's price action over price. Who cares about the price? The price is actually quite a little different. It's going to be there's going to be a price discrepancy depending on the exchange you use, depending on your currency, depending on so many things. You want to look at the price structure, and the price structure is still quite bearish. Okay, as it stands, what I'm seeing is this. This is our initial break. When I say initial break, I'm meaning the previous move was somewhat impulsive. It was direct. So insofar as the price keeps going in a certain direction, all right? We're not talking about pure impulse. We don't have to talk about pure impulse, because I've said on many occasions I don't think this Bitcoin's been in a purely impulsive move for the past 2 years, even though it's gone up significantly. But this is right here, as I see it, a break of structure of this, okay? So you can call that an A wave, you can call that a break of structure, it doesn't matter. That's my first break of structure. This I see as a clear secondary break of structure, okay? And this intervening move is clearly a B wave. I mean, that is a quintessential B wave. This all makes sense. Why I'm mentioning this will make sense in just a second, so stay with me. Okay, so my initial break of structure, my secondary break of structure, I don't see a third break of structure until here, and this is why I'm mentioning all of this, because it's really significant. So remember that. That's my third break of structure. I've actually labeled all of this. So here's my secondary break of structure, just so you understand. And you tend to see this. So if you do some back testing and you look for these signs and signals, you'll see a lot of times, first of all, there's no rhyme or reason, or at least no seeming rhyme or reason, none that I've found, and maybe somebody else has, but there's no time relationship between the first break of structure and the second break of structure, and how long the counter break. So when we talk about the first break of structure, the ensuing B wave or the subsequent B wave is a counter to that first break of structure, right? I talk a lot about this on this channel. It's really the magic. And when you're in the bear market, there's nothing else to do but to count corrective waves. So you get really, not even good, but you get really comfortable. You get really familiar with corrective patterns. And those corrective patterns help you to identify oncoming trends, because before every big trend, you have a full set of corrective patterns, either distribution or accumulation. Now I'm talking Wyckoff, but the same, it doesn't matter if you're talking Wyckoff or Elliott wave, it's the same idea. Before you move big in one direction, up or down, you gotta put in a consolidation, and that consolidation can be broken down into multiple breaks of structure and then counter breaks. So my first break of structure, first counter, secondary break of structure, secondary counter. I think it's quite clear. But that secondary counter doesn't end there. This secondary counter, as far as I'm reading it right now, is a complex one that goes like this. So A, B, C. I'll show it again. A, B, C. That all pertains to that secondary breakup structure as far as I'm reading it. This is all not super like, oh, just like, I want to hear myself talk and like, talk about my theories and stuff like that. No. It's very practical. So please stay with me. I know I lose a lot of people when I talk about, 2 degrees of AB racing and a pivot or Wyckoff this, Wyckoff that. It's really, really freaking practical. Because if you look at it, even theoretically, and say, hey, look, maybe there's something here where all of this makes sense in the context of this break of structure, meaning now I have one break, one counter, 2 breaks, 2 secondary counters, or it's one break, one counter, a secondary break, and a secondary counter. This would be my third break, i.e., now I can foresee, now I can calculate, now I can plan for a third counter, or what I call a pivot in 2 degrees of AB basing in a pivot. So now let's go here where we're at, present day. And again, you want to look at where you're at. You want to look at the context of the price action to make sense of what you're likely seeing, and that helps you get good reads on what the price is actually doing, or else you have no idea. If you're just zoomed in, even if you're on the daily time frame, if you're just zoomed in as to what's happening right here, right now, it doesn't make sense. Now this would make sense if this was my third counter, okay, or third break, or my pivot, whatever you want to call it. Now this B wave, A, B, is the counter to this. This is what we're in my estimation. This is where we're going. And this can go, if I'm correct, Bitcoin can go as high as the phi ratio, which is also the 1,618. So when I say the phi ratio, it's either the 618 or the 1,618, right? That's just math. It's just the inverse 618. The inverse 618 just so happens to be the 1,618. And so when you do Fibonacci retracements, that gives you 115, okay? And that is confluent with this resistance. However you slice it, you're under a bunch of resistances. You had a resistance here, which I talked about last time. It's a 30-day resistance. You have a resistance here, which is a 70-day resistance. This is also a 70-day resistance, the midline of this 70-day channel. So Bitcoin right now, in my estimation, is in this B wave. A B wave is a corrective pattern, and it is comprised of 3 parts, all right? An A wave, a B wave, and a C wave of a B wave, okay? Because remember, when I say that, don't get confused. You're talking about fractals. So, even in this smaller A wave, you see a fractal of an A and B and a C. So this is the impulsive portion, or the C wave of the B wave, right? Or the third counter, okay? The counter to this third break of structure. This can go as high, if we're correct, to 115 before invalidating this entire idea that this is a third counter, which I think, it doesn't look like anything else to me. Like, you don't just print that in a random impulse, right? So this was why it counts to read corrective patterns, and that's what the bear market's for. That's what, it's not sexy because the price is not going up or down, it's just going sideways, and it seems really tedious. But when you understand this stuff, it's so powerful because now you throw some fibs on it and you understand that Bitcoin, one, is in a corrective sequence. Two, you understand that despite it being in a corrective sequence that's very unpredictable and very capricious, you have a limit to where it can go, at least in your trading thesis. And so you know that, okay, Bitcoin can threaten to the upside. This works overall for a larger trading thesis for two reasons. One, that for this whole time we've been saying, wait for Bitcoin to break down, right? And it still hasn't broken down. The only way it makes sense that it still hasn't broken down is that this entire thing lasting, that started actually late November, right? So from late November to today, this entire thing lasting 60 days has been Bitcoin in distribution. And if you don't know what distribution means, I again am referring to Wyckoff analysis. Just look it up. Wyckoff analysis explains distribution as the sellers preparing to offload assets. So before a big drawdown, you have to offload the assets and sell bit by bit on market participants. That's called distribution, and it takes time. And non-savvy market participants cannot read the distribution as it's happening. They actually misread the distribution as a reaccumulation, i.e., price impulsive, and it's reaccumulating to continue the impulse. They can't read the distribution for what it is. And that is a common mistake. Okay? But if you see the distribution as a distribution, you understand that they're just more and more opportunities to offload the assets. And even if you're not reading this as a distribution per se, the fact remains you're under serious resistance here, serious resistance here, and serious resistance here. So Bitcoin is still very, very much, it's under a lot of pressure, quite literally, a lot of selling pressure, and hasn't broken up into even this channel that it was in, right? It lost this channel late December, and it still is yet to do that. So you'd have to, for you to think that this was reaccumulation, what you would want to do, I think, if you were bullish, is at the very least, regain the bounds of this channel and retest it as support and show that you can actually continue to the upside. Okay, so that's my read on Bitcoin. I always want to do, check myself and check the read and look on the higher time frame. Like, is this crazy? Does this make sense? And refine my larger trade thesis. So my larger trade thesis is that Bitcoin's in distribution, it's bearish. My target still between 65 and 69K to the downside. I think that happens rather soon. And now we're in Q1, mid-January, and we have yet to break down, but I believe, based off of what I'm seeing, we're pretty much at the on the precipice of this breakdown. Okay, so Bitcoin is close, but it still has some room to run. Why is that good? I told you that there are two reasons why that was good. One, because if you think, which I do, that Bitcoin doesn't break down until altcoins, or some altcoins at least, move, then you do want Bitcoin to have some wiggle room to play. If Bitcoin goes up even marginally, altcoins are allowed then to move much higher. If Bitcoin were to dump all of a sudden, well, then it's very unlikely that altcoins, despite being on support, can go up. So, like, it just so happens to need Bitcoin to go up, at least marginally. So that's my idea. Those are the reasons why I like that read on Bitcoin. And if I'm looking at my sort of watch list, altcoins are starting to wake up. And I say starting because they're not there yet. I mean, it's just, nothing is in double digits. Some green, but, really, I'm expecting some of these altcoins to go 50, 100%, 200%. So, look, if this is going to happen, it's going to happen very soon, and it's going to happen like that. And if we look at our Bitcoin dominance chart, which is Bitcoin vis-a-vis the rest of the cryptocurrency market. So Bitcoin pegged against altcoin, Bitcoin dominance going up. That means Bitcoin's gaining against altcoins in market cap, and then Bitcoin dominance going down, the opposite, altcoins gaining against Bitcoin. Altcoins gain against Bitcoin when altcoins are moving. And it's not every altcoin. So I'm not looking at my total 3 because that's a distortion of what's happening in the altcoin space. If you look at the total 3, it looks actually like it's at resistance because a lot of the major altcoins in market cap are at resistance. Like your Cardanos are at resistance. I think your Litecoin's at resistance. Ethereum's close to resistance. Like the main, all the money in altcoins, the most of the money is at resistance, but some aren't, and those have to run. Now, if we're looking at our Bitcoin dominance chart, we've been at resistance for quite some time, and you can see here this is a resistance, same resistance I talked about last time, and you're now forming a rounded top at resistance. So this is looking like at some point very soon you start breaking down. If this breaks down, this gives us our run in altcoins that have yet to run, because some altcoins have yet to run. And actually, once those altcoins run and move out of the way and gain and appreciate somewhat, then Bitcoin can come down, because then they can come down without making lower lows, because they're, as we read, on support. They're on crucial support, and they are likely to go into a bull market. And if they're likely to go into a bull market, it's unlikely that they come down even lower. And I talk about some of these on the channel all the time, but just to recap, you're looking at something like Balancer, which is on support. Sorry, wrong chart. It's on support, and it's unlikely, right? We talk about probabilities, not what's actually going to happen. We don't know, but it's very unlikely to go down any lower. So like something like Balancer, more likely than not, gets up here before Bitcoin goes down. Something else. Let's look at Litentry. Talked about that a lot on the channel. Something like Litentry, more likely than not, goes up substantially before coming down as Bitcoin, right? Look, you have years and years of forming support. More likely than not, goes up before Bitcoin comes down, and after Bitcoin comes down, then, you hit those downside targets, but from a higher vantage. So I hope that analysis makes sense. I'm kind of using altcoins to read Bitcoin and using Bitcoin to read itself, and merging both of those together to get an idea for what's likely to happen. And so the story still remains that I really see Bitcoin going up ever so slightly during this period of time, right? Next few days, if that. And in that same amount of time, altcoins like the Litentries of the world, the VRAs of the world, the Balancers of the world, the API 3s of the world, going up substantially, making ground for what is likely to be a big drawdown once Bitcoin comes down. So that's my take on the market. Nothing's really changed. That's why, I didn't come out with an update. If I don't come up with an update, more often than not, it's because there have been no material changes in my trading thesis, and I just don't want to waste anybody's time, including my own. That's it for me, guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was useful. Like, share, and subscribe. If you got value, consider buying me a coffee at the pinned comment below, or donating by sending me Litecoin, sending me a Venmo, a Cash App, all at the pinned comment below, and joining my crypto portfolio consultation and mentorship service, all again at the pinned comment below. That helps you position yourself for what is going to pump in the bull market because not everything's going to pump, and I give up to 5 assets. I give analysis of up to 5 assets per month, entries and exits and all that stuff. So if that all interests you, then check it out at the pinned comment below. Guys, I hope you're having a great one. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
The thing